Neon hasn't been nerfed since April 27th, 2022, and she actually got buffed on August 9th, 2022. So how did she go from an 80% pick rate on Fracture at Champions to a mere 20% at the NA Challengers qualifiers? Well, it's all to do with the chamber nerfs. Stick around to find out why. NA Challengers qualifiers just finished up, and with 567 matches, I thought it was a great opportunity to look at how the new meta is shaping and compare it to the Champions meta that was dominated by Chamber in 2022. Quick recap of the Champions 22 meta. We had Chamber being the most popular. This was even after his second set of nerfs. You can see if you take Ascent and Bind out of the pool, he's the most popular Sentinel by far and the most popular agent. And then if you look at the top 5, since then we've received nerfs to Fade, Viper, and Omen. So 4 of the top 5 agents since Champions have been nerfed. And as we go down the list, you can see there's a lot of agents who sort of have at least a map. You have, KO on Ascent, Raze on Bind, Sova on Breeze, Breach on Fracture, Astra on Pearl, Sage on Icebox, Sky and Brim both having Bind as well. Killjoy was returning to Ascent and seeing a lot of success. Neon had Fracture, and then you kind of had the bottom 5 agents here. Harbor wasn't even in the game at this point, but out of these bottom 5, Cypher, was starting to see play back on Breeze with the chamber nerfs that had come in. And then this is Paper Rex inflating these stats with their Reyna and Yoru picks. So now let's look at NA Challengers 2023. You can see Ascent and Haven still being the most picked, but now Bind and Breeze, with them being ready to be rotated out, a lot of teams just did not want to pick it at all. So obviously with the chamber nerfs, someone's got to step into that role. Killjoy was already in quite a decent spot and has now taken over that Senti role on most maps. The other hole that Chamber leaves is being the op wielder. So Jet comes back into popularity. It helps that 2 of her best maps are Ascent and Haven, the most played, but also you can see she's seeing lots of play on Pearl and Icebox. The most notable change here is this 52% on Pearl. The most notable change here is this 52% on Pearl. And you might have noticed, been like, hey, have we really seen Jet on Pearl before? Because we've seen her on Ascent, Haven, and Icebox a bunch. But have we seen her on Pearl? And the answer is no, effectively. If we go back to Champions for a second, you can see Jet got played 0% on Pearl. Infinite gains for Jet here on Pearl. And in the opposite sort of function, the other way that Chamber has affected the meta, Chamber had a 100% pick rate on Fracture. He completely changed the map. And now that he's gone, Fracture is completely different. And Neon went from having an 80% pick rate on Fracture, being the absolute favorite meta way that the map has played, that has now dropped to 20% and Raze has taken over. And the flow-on effect goes like this. Chamber goes down, we start seeing more Cypher and more Killjoy. They're up to now 52 and 40% of all comps on Fracture. So 92% of comps have either Killjoy or Cypher. And who has a really hard time against those agents? Neon. Who has a really good time against those agents? Raze. Raze is able to destroy their util, fly over the top of it. Neon, especially against the Cypher, is almost like a hard counter. It just becomes really hard to play her on that map. Other main notes here is that Sova and Fade do a swap with those Fade nerfs really hurting her actually. The Prowlers going from 100 health to 60 health really does have an impact on their value. Something to me that's really interesting is the win rates of these agents and the comps that they're playing in. So you see Sage only getting picked very heavily on Icebox. But if you look at the comps win rates, these are the top performing comps on all maps with a minimum of 100 rounds. See Sage in the top 4. Now Sage received that, and that heal change, while it affected the battle Sages in ranked, brings Sage back into alignment with her role. And that buff to the ally heal, getting 40 health extra, that's a whole bullet. That's fight changing, that's round changing, that's match changing in a flow-on effect. Here are the individual agent win rates. You can see Sova and Omen and Breach all having a really great time. Sage as well. And you can see the chamber nerfs really have taken effect. Same as the Fade nerfs. They're having a tough time after getting nerfed. Agent win rates are helpful, but the more interesting thing to look at is definitely the comp picks and those win rates. So as you can see on Ascent, there's a clear meta that's been established. These 5 agents are the meta comp, and there's not too much deviation from that. A couple of teams picking Astra over Omen or Fade over Sova. What was actually seeing a lot of success here is the variation against this comp. So throwing in the Sage here, Sage seems to be getting a lot of value here on Ascent. So this hasn't really changed since Champions. Come to Fraction, we do see a little bit more variety. There's definitely a contest here between KJ and Cypher, you know, and Cypher seems to be winning that war. 57% win rate versus only 44 for the KJ at this tourney. And yeah, we clearly just have Brimstone being the dominant controller here, Breach being picked like in almost every single comp. And then also Raze with a little bit of Neon still living around. Raze did outperform Neon here by a few slots, only a couple of percentage in the end, but a couple of percent in these kind of ratings are a pretty big deal. And the other thing that you'll notice is that a lot of the top performing comps here are running the double initiator of some sort, taking back over from Chamber. Cypher making his way in a little bit as well. And then you have this fight between Omen and Astra on Haven, which has been happening forever and ever and ever. It really just comes down to playstyle and fitting in with the rest of your comp. You can also see here from the individual agent pick rates that we're returning to more of a Jet Sova dominant meta, moving away from the Raze fades. Team's still definitely playing this, but favoring this right now. And one cool thing is that we're seeing Sky, a bit more Sky popularity. Icebox really does just feel like a 6 agent map. I was hoping to see more variation in the Icebox meta, but Icebox really right now kind of just feels like pick Viper and any 4 of these 5, and you've got your comp. See here in the composition picks, these top 3 teams are all just slight variations of each other, all 3 running the Sova KJ, and then choosing 2 of the 3 of Jet, KO, and Sage. There are teams experimenting, and we have this Raze comp, and then we have this double duelist with the Reyna, and then even just the Reyna, no Jet. But you can see it's still these 3 at the core. But you can see you're still picking 4 of those top 6 agents. You're just dropping 1 for an odd pick. Even the next comp down is 5 of the top 6 agents. And then we have 4 of the top 6 agents. And then we have 4 of the top 6 agents. And then we have 4 of the top. It's just like, that's as cool as it is that there are some slightly different picks coming through. It really is only variations of the same comp and the same playstyle. And here we get to Pearl, which feels like a completely new map as well without Chamber, much like Fracture. You can see there's sort of one main comp here. This is the same comp, except you have Sova or Fade. It's effectively a preference pick, and there's 100 picks of that. You're gonna notice a couple of trends. The Astra is in pretty much every comp, and KO or Fade is in every comp, except for this Yoru comp down here. And obviously we're seeing a lot of Killjoy and Cypher. And with the emergence of Jet, the dual slot does seem a lot more open with the Jet, Raze, and Neon all seeing picks here. And in terms of what's winning, it still continues to be varied. We have Raze, Neon, Jet all seeing success. Killjoy, Cypher, Sage all seeing success. Fade and Sova both seeing success. The KO seeing success. And it's just really this Astra, which is this pick. You know, you've even got Breach up here. Even the Turtle comp here from Oxy, which you can see my video about. Only the single initiator, double controller, double sentinel. Very, very cool comp. Just looking at how vastly different some of the agent picks are here. Some still staying quite similar. But look, KJ jumps all the way up to here. Neon down to 6% from 16. But this 80 going down to 20 really affects Neon. And it is cool to see the data here. 567 matches since the nerfs to all of these most popular agents from Champions. And since I've been playing, the game definitely feels the most balanced that it's ever been, with no one agent being way too strong. There are still a few agents lagging behind that need to catch up, but I think Lotus could help some of those issues. So stay tuned for my thoughts about Lotus coming soon.